place to promote the growth of Tigres in English through analysis, discussions, interviews, and more. Welcome to the Lautimes podcast. Welcome back to the Lautimes podcast, the only show in the world talking about Los Tigres de Monterrey in English. I'm Dennis, tonight's host, the usual producer. Great to be back with you guys on a Tuesday. Looks like the bug on Twitter has fixed, so I think more of you should be able to see that we're live. So come join us if you're on Twitter and if you're on YouTube. We're back to talk about the team, not necessarily in ideal circumstances, as things are not going super great, especially on the men's side, but en las buenas y en las malas, we're here to talk about it all. So I am happy to be joined tonight by my fellow friend up here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. You know him as Double A Nation in the Twitterverse. Mr. Edgar is here with me. How are you?
Doing good. Glad to be back with you guys, as always. And as you mentioned, not under the best of circumstances, but our job is to support at all times.
Correct. Y'all, if you're watching, please pray that Edgar and his laptop are able to survive the night, that we do not have any technical issues on his end, because unfortunately we've had some of that on his end the last couple of weeks, and even before we click record, we had some of that as well. So please help speak into the universe that does not happen tonight, because it's just a two-man game at the moment. We might be joined by somebody else in the crew later on. I won't say that just yet. I want that to be a surprise. Unfortunately, our good friend in Austin, Lou, is not able to join us tonight, which makes us feel like that. So sorry, Lou, I had to boo you. But that also applies for for some of the other guys as well. So anyway, if you're here watching us live on Twitter or on YouTube, please help us out by doing the following things. Share the stream, repost, text a link to somebody, tell your grandma, tell your abuela. Helps us out a ton. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter if you haven't already. And go ahead and follow both of us as well individually. And if you're listening on podcasts later, thanks for being here. Don't forget to subscribe to the show if you haven't already, and leave some comments on Spotify if you're listening there. Speaking of comments, drop some comments in the chat. As always, this show is better when you guys hang out with us in the live chat. So come hang out with us. We expect 3 gear to be here via chat here in a little bit. But for the time being, we need somebody to show up. So come hang out with us. As we have alluded to already in the first few minutes of the show, on the men's side of things, not so great. We're going to start with that before we end on a more positive note with Las Amazonas. First things first, let's recap Friday night at El Volcán, which ended up being another loss, second home loss of the season for the men. 2-1 to Pachuca. Edgar, I know that you said that you may have had time to make an outline. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. If you did, and if you have a piece for this part, go ahead and say it. But if you don't, then we can just go ahead and talk about the game.
Yeah, so no fancy outline for you guys. I apologize. It's been a little bit of a crazy day, but we can jump right into it. Tigres host Pachuca. It's, as you said, another consecutive loss at home. Something that we're not really used to seeing. I know under previous administrations, we were so used to having a really good streak of home matches that were undefeated, and now we've fallen off.
Absolutely. And we've been kind of mentioning over the last few weeks on the show this kind of theme with the team about a mix of concern with a mix of bad luck. And I think that, I don't know, you may disagree with me on this, Edgar. I feel like there was more concern coming out of the Cruz Azul game, where on this game, we just had a lot of bad luck and just a lot of misfortune. I guess the one concern is that Joaquim has continued to be a handicap for the team, considering that last season our defense was so solid and he has been a huge reason as to why it hasn't been with his errors and with a lot of the mistakes that he's been making. But also, it was unfortunate for him to be in that position anyway. The second goal that they got was just kind of wheels off. Like, yeah, Nahuel was super off his line, but also that's kind of a great goal. You kind of just have to throw your hands up and just say, all right, that's a good goal by Kennedy. But at the end of the day, as we've mentioned, it's 2 losses out of, I think, 4 games at home so far in the season. And when you're already this far behind, it's not looking so great. 2 losses in a row in general. Of our last 5 matches, we've won 2, drawn 1, and lost 2. And the only wins are against a Santos team that's really bad and a Forge team that wasn't going to have a shot really against us at home in the second leg of that CONCACAF matchup. So now with the team sitting in 8th place with just 10 points through 7 games, the question is, taking a step back, not necessarily talking about the game, but taking a step back, should we be really concerned now, or do we think that the luck will hopefully swing back in our favor sooner than later?
I do think there's cause for concern with a couple of specific elements. In particular, I'll say the defense. I think our defense has not been what we're used to. But other than that, it's really been more of like a couple unlucky streaks. I know we've had issues with refereeing. We've had a couple issues, or I'll say a hurdle with, the whole Nico Ibanez leaving, not leaving. Bit of uncertainty with who was going to be our striker for a couple of those games. But now that that's been sorted out, it's really just been more our defense is a big opportunity that needs to be corrected, and just kind of getting back on track with a couple of the unlucky circumstances that we've seen.
Yeah, and it's not like on Friday you had a bad lineup either. Like, he started the back line of Joaquim Angulo, Garza, and Loroña. He started a midfield of Gorri and Romulo. And then your front 4 was Lainez Correa, Ociel, who had a good game and scored, and Buffalo Aguirre. That's not a bad lineup on paper. But what ended up happening was that you got a lot of duds. Like, the midfield was okay. It wasn't great, but it was okay. Aguirre was fine. But obviously Joaquim ends up having a rough mistake, gets sent off. He's out this next game, by the way. So I'm sure when we talk about this Saturday's matchup, we have to think about who replaces him in that spot. Angulo, fine, like, again, it wasn't a great game, but it wasn't horrible either. It just felt very average, and this team at this point needs to really wake itself up over the next 10 games. Otherwise, you don't want to lose too much ground in the standings. I guess the one thing I will say as a positive is that the league is turning out to be a lot more competitive than I originally thought it was going to be. Some of the results that have happened over the last couple weeks have kind of shown that, okay, maybe we're going to be okay because we did fine against some of these teams that we lost to. Like, we didn't lose by a ton. Like, obviously Cruz Azul has turned out to be a better team than I think some people thought. Pumas has turned out to be a better team than some people thought. Just look at how they've shot up in the standings. I think they're 3rd. And Pachuca, I don't think a lot of people expected them to be okay after kind of a down year this past season, but they are also sitting in 5th place right now. I don't know. I think we're fine. I really do think we're fine. And the thing that I also want to get across right now is that there's some noise around the fact that Guido's not doing great. Could he be doing better? Absolutely. But is he the problem? Let me make this very clear. In both Inglés and Español, no, he's not the problem. Guido is not the problem. He's coaching the team very similarly to how he's been coaching them over the last year or so. Things are going to be okay. I think just a lot of guys are out of form right now at the all at the same time, and I think it'll correct itself over the course of the season. But you don't have that much margin for error left either with some of the matchups you have coming up in the league and all that. Drieger's in the chat saying there's no way Guido's a problem. We've been basically killing ourselves in past games. That's a great way to put it. It doesn't feel like we're getting outplayed by wide stretches here. So I think that at the end of the day, we will be fine. But I understand the frustration after that Pachuca game, knowing that, we had a lead, we go down a man, you let them score off of a corner, which was really annoying, and then you obviously have that golazo that they had to. Could things be better? Absolutely, but I do think that we're going to be fine at the end of the day. The stats don't really show it. We only generated 0.61 XG, even though we had a little bit more possession and more passes. But I think we'll be fine. Drieger saying it's been due to self-inflicted errors that caused the other teams to score. Exactly. Think about the Cruz Azul game. Think about this last game. We're still competitive. And I think that this kind of reminds me a little bit of even last season, right? Like around this time, maybe even just a little bit earlier. Remember us talking in August, right? Like we had a rough game against America. We lost to Miami in Leagues Cup. And we thought, oh, this team's not going to be any great. Look what happened a few months later. I think there's some similarities there. Maybe we're just off to a slow start, and hopefully things will sort of correct itself as things go on. Are you switching to your phone? I assume so, Edgar. Okay, I'm gonna throw your phone up on the screen now.
There we go.
Whoa, there's a lot of feedback. A lot of feedback. Oh, there's a lot of feedback. I think you need to mute yourself on your laptop in order for this to work. Yes, you need to do that. Or do that. How's that?
There we go. I think we're good.
Yes, that's better.
Except now I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Hello? Hello? Gotta love having technical difficulties live in the middle of the show. Can you hear me? I'm going to take that as a no. How about this? Can you hear me now? No? Okay, I'm gonna hope that he is able to come back here in a second. We need our other friend who's supposed to show up tonight to make his appearance as well. If you know, you know. Oh. Hello? Nope. Not there either. We're going to move on as we continue to talk about the men's team. Hopefully Edgar's able to join me here in a second, whether it's through his phone or some other mechanism. But as things stand, just a reminder of where we're at in the table. 7 games played, 10 points. Next match for the boys is a big one. You got 3 matches in a row that are pretty big. 2 on the road, 1 at home. The first one is a match against America, a match in which we struggled in some back in August, as I just mentioned. A match that has given Guido some headaches over the last little bit during his time as coach. But it's a match that, even though we're going to be on the road, uh, going into, I think, the Ciudad de Deportes. I don't even know what stadium they're in. I assume they're still there for the time being. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Um, I do think that going into this match, we should be feeling better about the team compared to at this point last year, where we walked into that stadium and we just got outclassed, right? Like we just um, completely got annihilated, honestly. And that was back when Guido was, you know, in his beginning stages as head coach of the team, and Jardine took him to school. Jardine also kind of took him to school back in August. I do think that Guido's improved as a coach since then, and I'm curious to see what kind of lineup he puts out in order to maybe try and change something. I do think maybe Edgar is joining us now. Are you back now?
All right, there we go. I think this finally works.
Hurrah! Okay, cool beans. Okay, I'm kind of setting the stage for the America match. So yes, Jardine has had the better of Guido over the last two times, but something tells me that this time's going to be different, because I do think there will be a sense of desperation with the team this time around, and also we played better on the road this season than we have at home, clearly. So with that in mind, and now that Edgar's back with us, how do you think we line up on Saturday? I think a lot of it writes itself. But with Joaquim's suspension and with maybe some changes that need to be made to just kind of shift the vibe a little bit, how do you think that starting 11 looks like on Saturday night in Mexico City?
So I do think it'll be very similar to what we saw against Pachuca. As you mentioned, Joaquin will be unavailable for this game. I think the natural replacement is going to be Purata right there in that position. And I could be wrong. I actually need you to verify this for me. Is Chuy Garza with the national team this week, or is that next week?
Ooh, that is a great question that I do not know the answer to. I'm going to try and research that while you keep spewing out your lineup.
So that's kind of like the little asterisk there, but I think the back four are going to be Angulo, Romulo Suarg, Purata, and I think we'll see Loroña up there again. And I want to assume we'll keep the lineup the same. Maybe Brunetta makes an appearance, and I kind of hope he does. I think that was kind of like a really critical piece that was missing against Pachuca in the starting 11. And I know we criticized Ociel Herrera just a little bit, saying he hadn't earned his position in the starting 11. But he scored a goal, and I think overall he didn't have a terrible game against Pachuca. So that's going to be a coin toss as well. It's either going to be him or Marcelo Flores. But I think for this game, both of them are going to be pretty good options. But if it was up to me, I would actually go with Marcelo Flores.
Okay. So Chewy is with the national team currently. However, they only have the game tomorrow. So I have to believe that he'll be back by Saturday.
Interesting.
And who knows if he's even going to play, right? Like this is his first time called up to the team. And it's an interesting squad. Here's what I think should happen versus what I think will happen. What I think should happen is Chewy should start even after coming back from national team duty. You have Romulo and Angulo as your center backs, with Loroña as your only true option there at left back, even though Osby played first few games of the season. I would have the Brunetta Goriaran midfield. I would do that. Correa up top as your 10, Lainez and Marcelo as your wings, and then I think it's time to switch things up at the striker position, and I think it's time for Andre Pierre to come back into the starting 11. not necessarily play the whole 90. I know that he's been kind of dealing with some sort of little nagging thing, but he also hasn't played in 2 games, so I'd like to see him back on the field. What I think will happen is this. I do think that Purata will somehow slide his way in there. Next to Angulo, Romulo probably slots uh, in midfield. I kind of think that he ends up doing Romulo Bruneta. I don't think Gori may start. I don't know. I don't think Gori's had a spectacular last couple games, so maybe he tries to switch things there. I do think he will end up keeping the wingers away how I had it set up, but I also think he's going to have Correa uh, as the 10 and then Aguirre start again against now his old team. I would imagine that he's not going to try to put Andre Pierre in until the second half, even though I feel like he should start from the offset. But that's just me. With that in mind, knowing what we know, and I don't think there's any other squad updates, like with injuries or absences, right?
No, I believe everyone else should be available and good to go.
Cool. You're facing an America team that is currently 1 point ahead of you. They're not having the best of seasons either, I would say. Although they did just beat the snot out of Puebla. But they've been better in the league. They lost to Chivas recently, but they also beat Rayados by a goal. I believe that was a home game, if I remember correctly. And they've, made some upgrades to their squad. Like their midfield has like completely revamped with Vega and with Dorado, if I remember his name correctly, kid from San Luis. They have some fresh energy there. And obviously, this is a game that they always get up for. Is it going to be an easy game by any means? No, absolutely not. I do think it'll be a difficult game. I do think that Jardine is going to come out with a good plan like he always does against us. But I do think that that sense of desperation within our squad is going to be pretty high to try and put on a good performance and to try to get some points back. I'm curious to see if we open up a little bit. I feel like we need to kind of play more expansive. I don't know if that's the place to do it, but I do think that that may need to happen at some point just to get us some goals because we've kind of struggled a little bit to score some goals recently and to even generate chances. But Brunetta starting, which I think should happen in any case, would help us with that in some way. And I feel like it's going to be a better match for us than the last couple of weeks. And I think the boys will find a way, at the very least, to get a draw. I'm not guaranteeing a win because this match is always tough for us and we haven't beat them in a little bit. But I do think we at least get a point. So my final prediction, 1-1. What do you think?
I think we have what it takes to end the streak of draws and losses. I think we can walk away with this 2-1 win. But it's definitely going to be like a very closed match.
They have to play perfect in some ways because America, the kind of voodoo that we have against them is that we can't really have a ton of mistakes. We can't have mistakes in general, obviously, because it's led us to dropping a ton of points, dropping 6 points out of 6 the last 2 games. But you really feel that in some ways more than others against America versus some other teams. So again, I hope we come out with a win, but we'll see. I'm going to stick to my prediction and hope that I'm wrong, but in a good way. I hope that you're right, that we get a 2-1 victory. I really hope that you're right, Edgar. That would be great for everybody if you're right. 3 Gear, if you're still around, drop your prediction, friend. And anybody else who's in the chat right now, please come drop your prediction. Edgar, before we move on, do you think our he who shall not be named friend is going to make an appearance at this point?
I think so. I think there's a slight possibility he just might.
Okay. Well, I hope he does because we're running out of show. We've already been through like basically half of the rundown. Drieger saying 2-1, super close game. Okay. Again, I hope you're right. I really do. I need a Correa goal, and I really need a Brunetta goal. Has Brunetta did score the last time we played America. I need him to do that again. That would be excellent for everybody. Please make that happen, Juan. Okay, let's move on. And again, I'm hoping that our friend, he who shall not be named yet, will join us. If he doesn't show up, I'll say who is supposed to be here, but I hope he does. Anyways, next up on the agenda, talking about Tigres Femenil, who are currently on 2-week break as they're in international break right now. A lot of the girls are out with the national team. Girls like Ordóñez and Delgado. Ceci Santiago's with the national team this time around, which is cool. But a few of the girls are out. But not before a good bounce back performance at home, or not at home, away in Mexico City last week against Pumas. A game that ended up 2-0, right?
That's
Correct me if
right.
I'm wrong. 2 to
Two to
nothing
nothing.
with goals from Lady D, as she always does, and Themby, who got on the score sheet as well. That was a much, much better performance for the girls, especially compared to how they played against Mazapan earlier in the week last week. Leaps and bounds different. There was purpose in possession, better passing. Jenny Hermoso back in the starting lineup made a huge difference, in my opinion. There was a lot of good about how the girls played, generating chances, better phases of play. Ordóñez capitalizing off of a mistake and finishing that chance was great. A lot of good to like about how the girls played. Again, especially after maybe having one of the worst results in team history just a few days prior, but to keep being on the road and to get a result like that against a Pumas team that has been pretty good this season was great. And even better in those jerseys, in the black and green jerseys that they played in as well. Any additional thoughts to that, Edgar?
Yeah, definitely a much better game and a much more solid performance than what we saw. And I'll go ahead and say it too, against a slightly tougher opponent than, Mazatlan and even Juarez, who uh, gave us quite a difficult match a couple weeks or days ago. Overall, very impressed, very happy with the end result. And it's a result that got us back to sixth place of league standings. I think last time we checked the table, Amazonas were in 10th. That was like a little bit concerning, but this is still not perfect, but much better than what we had seen.
Do we know? I guess we hadn't talked about this before. Do we know if they're doing the same thing as the men with Liguilla, like it's top 8 again, or are they still doing a play-in situation?
I believe with the women, it's just top 8.
Okay, so both divisions are aligned, which that makes sense. It should be. It should be the same at any time.
Yeah.
So that's good. It's always been. Oh, I'm stupid. You're right. It has always been top 8. I don't know why I just assumed that they did a plan, but whatever.
No, there's talks about adjusting the format for the femenil, but that's, I think, still up in the air.
Okay. Well, yeah, we've talked about that, like with the schedule and with
Yeah.
it being like one long season, which I don't think that should be the case. But that's not a discussion for this episode. That's a discussion for a future episode. But anyways, again, a much needed win, especially when you have these 2 weeks where Some of the girls need to get healthy. Some of the girls are going to be on break. Some of the girls are going to be with their national teams. It's nice that you're going into this not on a down moment, that the vibes are better, that you got a good win against a tough opponent on the road. And hopefully when you come back, you build on that going into the next game following, which I don't remember who our next opponent is. To be honest with you.
Next match, and it's actually going to be a little bit tough. So March 12th, we have Tigres Femenil versus Santos Laguna and
Llantos.
Llantos Laguna. And then right around the corner, March 15th, Tigres Querétaro Femenil. I don't like that.
Santos are currently sitting in 14th place, and Querétaro is in last. That sounds like two winnable games to me, but I don't know. Mazapan. Then again, Mazapan is. I didn't realize that they had 15. No, yeah, they have 15 points.
Wow.
So maybe it wasn't that bad. But you have to win those next two games. Oh my gosh, you have to win those next two games. Because then you have the tougher opponents after that. We still haven't played Rayados yet. We still haven't played America yet.
Nope.
For the girls
and
either.
Chivas as well, I think right before the Clásico Regio.
Oh yeah, the Ferral reunion game.
That's right.
Looking forward to that. I really am. They've been good this season. They're in third. So that's where we're at with the girls. Some improvement, like we mentioned, and hopefully they continue to build on that as we head into the next match coming up against Santos. Now, we have one final thing with our rundown for tonight. If you have been active on socials at all today, you have probably seen that a certain player on our team who does a certain podcast from time to time did a certain podcast episode that dropped today with a certain I think superstar is an understatement for the guest that was on that show today. Nahuel Guzman appearing on a podcast episode with the Lionel Messi. Full disclaimer, either of us that are here right now have not seen the full thing. But we have seen some clips filter through the interwebs over the last few hours. Drieger, you saw it. Tell us your thoughts, Drieger. Tell us your opinion on the whole thing. Based on the clips that you've seen, Edgar, what do you think about just sort of the interactions that they had in that episode?
So for me, and it's kind of like it's still mind blowing. One, that not necessarily that he managed to pull it off. I know Nahuel Guzman and Lionel Messi, both from the same hometown, both partners in La Selección at one point. That's not surprising, but being able to see more of the human side of Messi and seeing him kind of laugh and smile in an interview, that's not really something you've ever seen before. That was like the biggest takeaway for me. That was kind of like very, very surprising. I don't think anyone else has really gotten a good interview like that with one of the best players in the world.
From the bits that I saw, some of the things that stood out to me was him talking about his sort of like regret about not learning English when he was younger. I thought that was really interesting that he mentioned that, especially in the context of I end up running into these like celebrities / famous people who know English, and it feels super awkward that I don't know the language. Basically, like I thought that was really interesting. Thought it was really interesting that he spoke pretty highly of the Mexican league, like as a whole, just of how much he watches it and how much he keeps track, and commends the quality of the league and the teams within the context of CONCACAF and Leagues Cup and all that. Like talking about how he understands that there's an advantage for Mexican teams to play in Mexico, and that when they don't have that in Leagues Cup, it's probably not as fair, right? Like that was really interesting to me. Um, Again, I need to watch the whole thing to get a better view of it. But like you mentioned, that's a hard get, and I know that they had to go to Miami in order to make that episode happen. But shout out to Noel and that team, that podcast team, for making it happen. Because by all accounts, it ended up being a good episode. I wonder when they recorded it. That's what I want to know. Like, when did that happen? Like, when did they go down and do that? Did they do that when, like, we were in Miami in August? That feels like it would have been put out a long time ago if that was the case. It had to have been recent, right?
Yeah, I definitely think it was more recent because I know Nahuel and his team, they release their podcast episodes in seasons, and I know a lot of them are, pre-recorded with at least 1 or 2 months in advance, I believe is one of the things he mentioned. So this feels very, very recent. I don't know if maybe it was right before Apertura, or sorry, this Clausura season kicked off and MLS was already on a break. If I had to guess, that's probably when they recorded.
Threaker saying, I have a feeling it was Christmas week. I just wonder if it was recorded before or after Miami won MLS. That's what I wonder. Because it makes sense if it was after, because obviously they had the break from basically December until now with the team. So that would make the most sense. But I guess we'll never know, or I guess we'll find out that information at a future point. I think next week it'd be worth talking about this again a little bit more in depth. That gives us a chance to like actually watch it and kind of get some more notes from it. But since it just came out today, it was a little harder for all of us to get a good look at it besides the clips. So we'll retouch this topic next week and kind of give some more thoughts and more feedback when we reconvene next time.
Yeah, and we'll be able to get Lou's thoughts as well. So that'll be really good. More
Yeah.
insight.
Hopefully some of the other guys as well. But yeah, go check that out if you haven't already. It's on YouTube, and I assume it's on Spotify and Apple and all the places, right?
Yes, Miro de Atrás is available on Spotify and Apple Music, I guess. Apple Music,
Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcast. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I assume it's all of those spots. So go check that out if you haven't already. And I'm speaking to myself here because I need to fully check it out. I've partially checked it out, but not fully. Okay. Well, we're 40 minutes in. He who shall not be named has not appeared, and we've gone through basically all the rundown. So unless you want to stall, Edgar, I think it may be time for us to land the plane.
Tell you what, we'll give him 5 minutes. Then it's 10 o'clock, and usually our podcast is about 45 to an hour, unless we've got a heavy schedule. Which this week, not a whole lot. It seems like next week as well will be slightly lighter episode with Amazonas not participating. So we'll be able to touch up, like as you mentioned, on Nahuel's interview and a couple other things that might come out. But
Right.
for the
Yep.
next 5 minutes, would you like to share with the listeners your little adventure from the weekend?
I sure can. And I could touch more on this next week too with more of the guys. One other thing I forgot to mention actually real quick, that's actually kind of important in the context of Tigres. Update on Conca. We're gonna get Cincinnati. They took a, I believe, 4-0, 4-1 advantage with away goals in the first leg of their matchup last week, and they play at home tomorrow and the second leg. So it is very likely that we will end up, unless something miraculous and weird happens tomorrow in Cincinnati, we will play them in the next round of Champions Cup. The first leg will be in Cincinnati. I looked at the regulations and rules and all that, and we have a higher seed, so we will host the second leg of that matchup. But the first leg will be in Cincinnati, I believe, the week of March. It's like right after Clásico Regio, I think, is when we would trek up there for the first leg. So I would if I had to put a guess on it, I think we're gonna play either the 10th or the 11th, the first leg in Cincinnati, and then we'll play the return leg the 17th or the 18th. That would be my guess. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Again, unless something weird happens tomorrow in Cincinnati, we're gonna end up playing Cincinnati again. And personally, I'm very much looking forward to collaborating, hopefully with our friends from Cincy Soccer Talk again in the next few weeks, whenever that happens. So stay tuned for more on that as it gets closer. Now, let me talk about the experience that I had in LA. Listener, if you didn't know, I decided a couple months ago to do a crazy trip where I basically went to LA and back in the span of 20 hours to go watch the LAFC versus Inter Miami match at the LA Memorial Coliseum on the campus of USC. And so this is my experience. We got to the airport. We flew out of. I gotta explain all the details here. We flew out of left field. We did not return to left field. We returned on DFW, but we flew out of left field, which was crazy. Left around 1 o'clock Texas time. We got to LA at 3:30 LA time. Okay, so got off the plane. We had to run a couple errands when we got there. But after that, we got over to the stadium about an hour before the match started. We had a little less than an hour, like 45 minutes. Walked over. They had a little fan zone party thing set up, like outside of LAFC's actual stadium. And there was people hanging out there. The line for everything was super long to get in. The merch line was super long. The merch lines inside the stadium were super long. And it was a lot of people. If you were able to see anything about that match, 75,000 people rolled up to that match, which was crazy. And honestly, I didn't realize it until after I got home on Sunday, but that's the biggest sporting event I've ever attended. I've been to bigger events like concerts and stuff with more people, but that's definitely the biggest game that I've been to of any sport, which is wild because I've been to a lot of sports games. But it was very fun. The match was cool. It was great seeing Messi live. It was great seeing Heung-min Son live. I gotta say, for it being a Messi-related thing, there were not that many Inter Miami fans. I think the ratio was about 9-1, 10-1. There's a lot of LAFC fans, a lot of Koreans, obviously because of Heung-min Son. But they definitely outnumbered the heck out of those Miami fans. We were sitting next to a kid who is a student at USC, and I asked him, okay, you're here all the time for football games. How does this compare? He's like, oh, it's never full in here for USC football. Like, this is the most full I've ever seen the stadium in my time here as a student, which I thought that was really interesting. I wore the black and green kit to the game as like a neutral thing, and I got some Mentos who were yapping at me as I was walking to my seat with a "Arriba las Chivas" way, and I was like, "No mames, like no seas pendejo, like come on now, like talking about Chivas." And I saw some other bro with a Cruz Azul jersey, but other than that, I did not see a lot of Liga MX jerseys like floating around in the stadium. Again, it was a lot of LAFC fans who were there, and plenty of neutrals. For like a lot of those neutrals were in like Premier League and Barcelona and other jerseys. So I probably maybe was the only person wearing a Tigres related thing in there, but who cares? I would have just said remontada in their face. I should have done that. That's a great point. We left the stadium. We found some tacos, like about a mile from USC, maybe a little less. They had a $1 tacos de trompo or tacos del pastor, which is crazy for California. May I remind the people that California is expensive, so to get tacos for $1 each was crazy. So I got 4 of those. I got a quesadilla. They were pretty good. Not gonna lie, they were pretty good. Sauce could have been better, but that's my opinion. And then we had to basically go to the airport after that. We stopped at Randy's Donuts, which if you haven't been to Randy's Donuts before in LA, you should. It's the best donut I've ever had in my life. Dollar tacos in Cali. I know, it was crazy. So I can't remember what the normal price of their other tacos were because I just got 4 de pastor, but $1 each was wild. It was genuinely wild. Um, and then we got donuts, and then we had to get back to the airport, and we left LA at 1 a.m. LA time and got back here at 6 a.m. DFW time. Again, in DFW airport, not flying back to left field, and that flight was miserable. So yeah, that's my experience.
Wild 20 hours. No Berterame jerseys in the stadium.
Bro, no, and he was trash, bro. Let me tell you what, that dude was awful. Like, he looked so bad. He had a miss, and I yelled some mega payasadas at him when he missed. It was so funny. Um, I don't want to repeat them on the air, but just know that it was funny. Yeah, he was rough, man. He was really rough. I didn't see any Rayados jerseys in the stand, but you know what? I did see. I had a kid in a class that I was subbing in today who was wearing a Rayados kit, and I was not happy about that. Let's just leave it at that. Brainwashed 6th grader. Yeah. Do you have any questions you want to ask me, or
That was the first important question, but
okay?
I mean, overall, how would you rank the experience?
That's a great question. Of of all the soccer games that I've been to in the U.S. that are not Tigres related, because I've been to a few of those. Now it's definitely the best one. You could feel the hype in the stadium because it was a match involving 2 superstars like that. Um, it was a very good experience. The fact that there was a lot of people helped too, and like people were not like yeah, people were starstruck to see Messi and all that, like duh. But there was a lot of people, especially in our section, who were really invested in the game. Like, it wasn't like oh, we're gonna go just see Messi and we don't care anything else about what happens. Like, nah, people were there to like see what was going on, and they really enjoyed it. Um and it was fun hearing like conversations about, oh, they should have done this thing, or people talking, strategy and tactics, and just thoughts about how the game was going, like around us. So it was a really cool experience, all in all. Like, just to be in that stadium for that big of an environment was really cool, and it was a chaotic adventure. It was definitely not a cheap adventure. It was okay finance wise. Like, we made it work. Um, we got tickets at a good deal. Obviously, flying in and out the same night or the same day like helped. Um, we'd have to get a hotel room, so it could have been a lot worse. But it also wasn't like, oh, I went to LA for $100. Like, no, that's not possible in 2026. But overall, it's definitely up there with one of the coolest sporting experiences that I've ever been in my life. I mean, it doesn't top the World Series. It doesn't top going to even last year's Clásico Regio or the final in 2023 against Chivas, or even in Champions Cup for that matter. Champions Cup was really sick, but that was a really cool experience nonetheless, and I'm glad me and my friend got to do it.
Yeah, it's awesome, especially because I know, at least here in North Texas with FC Dallas, we don't really get the best of MLS action most of the time.
We do get LAFC though, a fair bit. I was thinking about it too. Like, I've seen LAFC a lot over the last few years. That's probably the team that I've seen the most in MLS between Champions Cup or Campeones Cup. Um, Obviously this past weekend I've seen them twice in Dallas, once in Austin. Like, I've seen them a lot. So I think I've had my LAFC fix for a little bit. Um, Even though it is hard to not go see Hyun Sun because he's a really fun player. Um, and made me want Bawanga again because Bawanga played really good. But as we know, that ship has probably sailed. But yeah, it was it was cool, nonetheless.
Yeah, getting to see Bwanga score always nice, especially when it's not against Tigres.
Right. It was him and Son have a really good like partnership and relationship. I thought that was really cool to see that play out on the field. You can tell the chemistry between them is really good, even though they've only been teammates for like 7, 8 months. So that was really cool. Any other follow up questions?
I think that was it, but thank you for sharing.
I can go more in depth next week with more of the crew, of course, but um, yeah, it was nice to chat about that for a few minutes. While you can, guys, when you have opportunities like that in life, take advantage because you know it's always fun to get those experiences. I'm very much an experienced guy. Like I have a lot of things. I feel like um, I own a fair bit of things, but I care way more about having good experiences. And like, I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad I can say that I did that. So any experience that you can get that's fun and exciting in your life, you should do that. Nobody asked for this unsolicited life advice, but I'm just saying, just do it. If you can do something fun, do it. That's all I gotta say. Is that it?
That is it. And on that note, listeners, I'm just putting my 2 cents. If you have not made it out to a game at the Volcan, just do it. Just do it. It's worth it. And I guess like also following up on that, we'll have to share this video on our socials. There's a British guy out
Oh
in San
yeah,
Antonio,
yeah.
Texas. And I think this would have been last season. He posted a TikTok and an Instagram reel sharing his experience at a Clásico Regio and his trip to the Volcan, saying it does not compare to anything in the Premier League, and that he is now a fan for life.
Yeah, we need that guy on the podcast, by the way. Um, y'all help us out on socials and like helping us like get connected with him because that would be awesome. I love that video so much. I think it was from last season,
Yeah,
like
it had to have been.
the one that I was at too last April. So yeah, let's make that happen. We know Lou can kind of pull some strings, better than some of us can. So hopefully we can get that connection to work out, and maybe we can interview him and get a more in depth experience. It feels in a lot of ways like Sam, like when we talked to Sam a few months ago.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, he is blown up. Shout out to that guy, our friend Sam from Sam's Concourse, who has blown up. Honestly, like his YouTube has really like grown over the last few months. Like he's visited some more stadiums. He had a cool little partnership with Chivas. Um, he's doing really great. So you should definitely follow him if you haven't already on socials because he's doing a good job with his social media and with his YouTube. So you don't have any from the vault moments tonight?
I do not, unfortunately.
That's fair. I
We'll
think
try to bring him back though.
yeah, we've been kind of taking a little bit of a break from them recently, but it's not all bad. I could look back and say the match that we had around this time last year. Today's what, the
24th.
24th? Oh gosh. Okay, so around this time last year, on February 22nd, we played Leon and we lost 1-0. We already talked about that game recently, actually. But then 2 days later, or 3 days later, we played at home to Juarez and we lost. Do you remember this?
Vaguely, vaguely. I remember being annoyed.
You want to hear the lineup?
Let's run through it. I'm pretty sure it's full of a little bit of disappointment.
So the back line was Aquino, Garza, Joaquim, and Angulo. The midfield was Parra, Guido, because Guido was still technically a player at this point. Lainez Flores, Bruneta, and Sebastian Cordova. We're in the starting 11. Off the bench came Andre Pierre, Carioca, Fulgencio, and Uriel Antuna. And we lost 1-0 off of a goal that they scored in the 40th minute.
I don't know what's more shocking, the fact that they scored that early in the game or the fact that Fulgencio and Antuna crossed paths. I completely forgot that.
At home, too. At home. That's the crazy thing.
Yikes.
So, yeah, I don't remember that game at all. And then the next game after that, March 1st, was a game at Necaxa, which we won in the last minute, which that was also Guido's last game as a player before we fired Panovich and he became the coach. So that's I guess that's our from the vault moment from this time last year, this week. So there you have it. That's it for us tonight. Disappointed that our he who shall not be named. I guess I should name him now. Arnullo was supposed to join us tonight, but that did not happen. But that's okay.
Busy man.
La Fantasma is out there somewhere. Honestly, most of the guys feel like Fantasmas at this point. I say that in love, as we know. But that's it for us. Thank you for joining us if you tuned in live. I know we had a lighter crowd tonight, but we appreciate y'all who did join us. Glad that Twitter fixed the problem and that we're back kind of up and running there. Like I said, if you are not following us already, you should. Check out the show description, the show notes, episode description. Look at the screen, do all the things. We'll be back next week. We'll recap the America game. We'll recap, or not, well, we'll just recap that. We'll preview 2 games next week. Which, speaking of next week, Clásico Regio preview on the way because that Clásico Regio is coming up real soon. So be on the lookout for that. We'll record probably next Tuesday night as we usually do. And hopefully we'll have more of the crew back with us as well a week from now. So thank you for joining us again. Like I said, give us a follow. Help us out. Subscribe. Do all the things. Helps us out a ton to get out to more people. And we look forward to talking to you guys in about a week. But until next time, y'all be good. Stay safe out there. Arriba la U. And Edgar, thank you for joining me, my friend.
Of course, always a pleasure. Always happy to be here.
Peace.